Namaste and a big welcome to the Ex-Christian Show, the insider view of Christianity from the outside. I'm happy to be joined by Dr. Raj Vedam in this episode. Dr. Raj is not new to dharmic circles. He's a fellow intellectual Kshatriya working tirelessly to illumine minds of young and old Sanatanis that have distanced themselves from their heritage. Dr. Raj is an electrical engineer by profession and is an expert in the Indic knowledge systems and their scientific value. His primary focus has been on identifying problems in mainstream narrative of Indian history and setting it right. To that effect, he has delivered several lectures on various platforms. Dr. Raj has also conducted over 100 workshops for high school teachers both in India and the United States. Dr. Raj teaches Indian history at the Hindu University of America. Welcome to the Ex-Christian Show, Dr. Raj. Nice to have you.
Namaste, Esther. Thank you very much for inviting me to be on your platform. It's a real privilege. Thank you.
I received a video clip and was asked to react to it. And I asked the sender what it was about and was told that it was a conversion story, conversion to Christianity, and the video is narrating the experience of that conversion. I told the sender I don't do reaction videos, especially if they're talking about personal experiences. Well, of course, unless there's something in them that I can use to educate my viewers. The sender insisted I watch it once before I take a call on whether or not I want to do a reaction video to that. So I watched the video, and what I found in it is a sea of scope to educate my viewers. For starters, this tale of conversion, I think, is a classic example of what happens to Hindu kids when their parents fail to bring them up with the right understanding of Sanatana philosophy and practices. So, to my understanding, Dr. Raj, every convert in India is a product of such upbringing, myself included. And I'm not very proud of it. So, but this conversion tale is, I think, a wake-up call to all such parents. And that's the only goal of this video. I want to make that very clear at the outset. Before you offer your response, can we watch the video first?
Yes, please.
My name is Uma Murthy. I'm going to share my long testimony, but in a very short manner, just in brief. I hail from Chennai. I was born and brought up in a very orthodox Hindu Brahmin family. And the way the Lord touched me was very different and very miraculous. I was born as the last daughter among the 4 daughters in my family. Least but not the, the Lord chose me. I don't know why. I used to wonder, why Lord, why me? Because all my other sisters are much more better, but the Lord said, I choose the foolish things of this world to put to shame the wise. It so happened, the best part is, we all studied in Christian convent schools right from our kindergarten. And I was surrounded with a lot of Christian friends who used to share the gospel to me every day, almost. And I just used to take it in this year and leave it off in the other year. Because I was such a stubborn Hindu. Like, you can never see my forehead without the vibhuti, kungumam, and saffron, etc., etc. Every day I used to go to those temples and worship those idols. I used to chant a lot of mantras and slokas. I used to say the Gayatri mantra. I used to sing praises to all those idols. So I was such a stubborn person. I thought I was sinless. I was so pious. I thought I was so holy, actually. And it so happened in the year 1998 when I was doing my 12th grade. Just for the fun part of it, I just went for an SU camp. The message actually, fortunately, touched me. It was a message shared by a sister from Isaiah chapter 45. She said, the Bible says that we cut wood from a tree. One part of the wood we make an idol and we worship it. And the other part of the wood, we just use it as firewood for cooking. We are actually worshipping the created object and not the creator. So if you have brains, think and see. She pointed out to me in front of the whole crowd among my friends. So I felt so bad that day. If you have brains, you can imagine, somebody pointing out when you are a teenager. So that night, I had a sleepless night. So out of a critical mind to just research and criticize, I just opened the Bible, started reading it. Because I've never understood all these things when my friends said, because no one can convert another person. Because nowadays, they say Christians convert others, but it's not possible. I'm a proof for that. Because conversion doesn't happen by compulsion. It is a conviction of the heart. Right? So, salvation is the Lord's. The Bible says that. So, it so happened, when I started reading the Bible, for the first time in my life, I got to know that idol worshipping was a sin. I've never known that. How can I create an object and ask the Creator to come and sit into that? Such a big, great God who created me, who wants to carry me. Okay, I want to carry him now. How can I do that? Okay, for the first time in my life, I got to know that I was formed with sin in my mother's womb. Because I was so proud, I was sinless, I was pious and holy. And the second thing which really touched me was I can call this God as my own father. The God of the Bible is my father, my Abba father. When I was a Hindu, I used to call the names of 1,000 gods, almost 33 crores gods I was worshipping. But no God did I have a personal relationship like how I have with my Jesus. I got to know only this Jesus wants me to have a personal relationship with me. No other God can do that. And above all, I had a surprising news that I can worship this God however I am, wherever I am, in whichever form I am, like whether I am clean or not physically. Because, most of the times in Hinduism, when the women are unclean during certain days, they are not allowed into the holy sanctuaries, the temples, etc., etc. Even Islam follows that, I suppose. But it was real news, good news to me, that I can worship this God irrespective of my physical uncleanliness. I can just worship him anywhere, however I am. He sees only my heart, not my physical uncleanliness. And he doesn't expect my sacrifices because he has already sacrificed himself on the cross of Calvary. I needn't climb the Himalayas. I needn't get myself dipped into the Ganges. I needn't go to the Sabarimalaya and do all those sacrifices for him. Because he sacrificed for my sins. He carries me. I need not carry him. So on that day, I accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. And the Lord spoke to me from 2 Corinthians 5:17, that if any of you is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone and everything has become new. So that day when the Lord spoke to me, I'm again stressing this, nobody told me to take baptism. The Lord spoke to me to take baptism from 2 Corinthians 5:17. That day I got baptized as well as with the Holy Spirit. And the journey wasn't that good. The Christian path is such a narrow, tough path. Of course, a lot of persecutions, a lot of tribulations, a lot of cries. Most of the days my restrooms were my prayer rooms. It was so tough, the journey. Again, long story made short. But finally, the Lord was carrying me and he guided me in my profession, in my education. He made me a lecturer and everything. And my parents were seeing this, and slowly they accepted the Lord, and they started praying for my marriage. And I was so stubborn, I will get married only to a born-again believer. And according to my parents' wish to get me married to a Brahman convert, according to their heart's desires, the Lord fulfilled their heart's desires too. And God has given me a good husband, good children. He's given me everything. Of course, there is problems this side and that side and everywhere. But the Lord is holding me. He's guiding me. He's besides me. Okay? I can never be put to shame anywhere because wherever I was put to shame, he honored me. He's never let me down anywhere. He's been so faithful, so good. A God of faithful promises he is. As for me and my household, we will worship the Lord. Amen.
So that was a interesting episode to say the least. Interesting video to say the least. Esther, to start even commenting on this, we need to see why many Indians espouse such strange values. For that, we need to go to the history itself. take a look at the history of Christianity in India. It turns out that India has had a Christian community for a long time in Kerala's coast, ever since some traders from Syria landed up over there on the Kerala coast in the year 600 or so, Thomas Kanna and the others. And they started a small community over there. For most part, they lived basically among themselves. After the Christianization in Syria and other places, these people were fleeing the persecution and they're settling in places. Now, the next big introduction of Christianity came with the Portuguese. After Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese came into India with huge armadas, huge numbers of ships and warriors and those kinds of things, and they invaded the west coast, literally, of India. The Portuguese were like the Taliban of today. So they were not interested in Indian knowledge systems. They were not interested in anything but to kill, murder, and rob, rape, pillage, and take away the gold of India. And along with the toxic mix, the missionaries also came along. People like Xavier, for example. Xavier and others who had proposed that, written to the Pope, asking for an inquisition of the people over here to prevent the neo-converts from going back to their old practices. The next big power, the Dutch. The Dutch came and to Tranquebar and the missionaries like Bartholomew Ziegenbalg. So these people came and they started collect. The Dutch were also interested in Indian knowledge systems. So they started collecting Indian texts and they started propagating the religion. At that time, the Nayaka ruler in southern India, he was Raghunatha Nayaka, very powerful, proud man, Hindu. Ziegenberg was caught by the police, if we can call them the police of the Raghunatha Nayaka, and thrown out of the territories, telling, go back to the Dutch lands, you cannot proselytize over here. Well, let's move on from the Dutch period to the French period. The French came to Tamil Nadu and they were as bad as the Portuguese, the Catholics as bad as the Portuguese. So they were destroying temples. For example, the very famous Vedapurishwaran temple in Pondicherry, destroyed by the French governor's wife. So she had destroyed that along with the neo-converts in that area and all kinds of problems. They were followed pretty soon by the British East India Company. Now, the British East India Company did not come to proselytize. They came to make as much as money as they can. Robert Clive had set the tone to loot India, and they were going about their business of looting. In 1825 or so, when the charter of East India Company was being renewed in the Crown, the missionaries lobbied the Crown successfully, saying a condition for renewal of the charter is we should go there and we should convert these people to Christianity. So East India Company was forced to do that. Missionaries poured into India, people like G.U. Pope, people like Caldwell, and so many others. Along with this toxic mix, the American Baptists came into the Northeast and did their toxic work over there. In Kolkata, there were missions started over there. In Tamil Nadu, there were missions started. All over India, all kinds of things happened. They knew that if they have to have a foothold in India, they need to destroy the theological leaders in India, which were the Brahmins. So they went through a process of creating atrocity literature in several ways. First way is by distorting the history. So Eurocentrism, as well as missionary inputs, ensured that the history of India was perverted. In addition to that, several of the missionaries were at the forefront of translating the Sanskrit works. And clearly, these were expedient translations for Christian purposes. The third thing is the creation of atrocity literature itself, things like caste system and other things, which were designed to increase the divisions and the anger. So by propagating the anger in people, they converted the aspirations of people, turned them against their own philosophical systems, alienated them, so they could be easy targets for conversion. The bottom line is every one of these things helped in creating a certain kind of narrative about Hinduism, which denigrated Hinduism, pulled down its chronology, tried to distort the message, and push these tropes deeply into the Indian system, including the creation of so-called caste system. So when I saw that video that you showed earlier, Esther, it's clear to me that the person is ignorantly again mouthing the same atrocity literature set in tone by the early missionaries without even the slightest effort to decode, are those statements true? Are they relevant? Is any aspect of them relevant? So she's not made any effort. She's blindly, mouthlessly saying the same tropes that the British have done for the purpose of alienating people and converting them. So the fact that she proudly goes on stage announcing it shows how Caldwell and others who started with a certain kind of thinking, that same line of thinking has carried forward, and she's a product of that same disinformation, indoctrination, deracination. Everything has resulted in the same ridiculous statements that this person is saying. So one has got to sit back and admire these guys for how pervasively they have injected noxious ideas into the Indian system.
The speaker also exhibits shallow understanding of the faith that she has embraced. So it's not just about Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
She also has superficial understanding of the faith that she just embraced. So that's what got me. That is the only reason I thought I should make this video, to set the perspective right on both sides, both the Hindu statements that she's made and the Christian statements, the statements on Christianity that she's made. So, and I also want to make one more thing clear here, Raj, is had this video been completely personal, narrating her personal experience, we would not have even bothered to react at all.
Right.
But the video had many general statements, like I said, both on Christianity and on Hinduism. And also, we are not dissecting every statement that's there, that's been made in it. We will be dealing only with those statements about Hinduism and Christianity that indicate her shallow understanding.
Sorry, I agree. I agree. I wanted to add to your point over there, Esther, that I too believe that religion, or whatever people choose to believe in, whether religion or not, is a personal choice. You can do what you want. However, if as the reason for making a particular choice, you're going to make pot shots about some other system, then yes, everybody's got a right to decode your statements and call you out if you're made misrepresentations. And that is what I'm hoping to discuss with you over here, Esther, about some of the pot shots she's made on Hinduism.
Okay. And we are going to analyze all these statements in light of Sanatana philosophy and practice, and also the empirical evidence we have for Christianity. So let's jump into the statements right away. So my first question is based on the statements that say that wearing a bottu on the forehead, or chanting mantras, or visiting the temple every day made one a Hindu. Is that what it means to be a Hindu?
Okay, so that is a very, very shallow take on Hinduism, that external appearance and marks alone make you into a Hindu. So to start with, Hinduism is not a monolith. It is not a monolith of one God, one way, one text, and it is either this way or eternal purgatory, hell for you. No such thing, because of the very philosophy of Hinduism. So there is no such thing. Hinduism has got an enormous, rich variety of practices, ideas that go into defining what Hinduism is. So in a very broad sense, we can say a Hindu is a seeker of truth. A Hindu rejects superstition and dogma. A Hindu espouses the use of logic, rationality, and what we call pramanas to figure out what the truth is. And what truth is that? The truth about our existence. Who are we other than the body, the mind? Is there something else to me? And yes, Hindus do believe that there is an Atman inside me, and that Atman is part of a Paramatman out there. So we are all part of a wholly connected whole, if you will, basically the Brahman that we're talking about. So the Hindus do not believe that there is a separation between the creator and the created, the way Abrahamic systems believe that the creator is not part of the creation, is removed from creation, and they believe that we worship the creator and not the created. However, that duality gives rise to a lot of different problems, which I don't want to go over here. These paradoxes have been discussed by many philosophers over the ages. Hinduism does not believe in such a duality. Rather, it believes that we are all part of Brahman. Everything is a part of Brahman. It is our attachment to the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts that make us have this ego that makes us think that we are distinct from the permanent reality. So this is what Advaita is trying to see, to make us understand what the permanent reality is, and all these different manifestations of what we think is reality through our sense objects are really not what the reality is. So don't get attached to these things, because there's a deeper permanent reality. So that said, a Hindu cannot be somebody who blindly accepts truth claims. If somebody comes with a blind truth claim, you will not accept it. You are expected to analyze it and see the reality in that. In every stage of life, we are enjoined to dispel the avidya about our true nature. What are these four goals of life, the purusharthas? For example, the first one is dharma. With dharma, loosely the right conduct. How are you going to live life? Artha, which is the acquisition of prosperity and doing your duty and then acquiring the fruits of that. Kama, which is enjoying the sense objects or satisfying the senses and so on. And finally, moksha, the path of self-realization. So these are the four goals, the stages in life, if you will, for a Hindu. And at every stage, you're enjoined to analyze what your dharma is and go about it. So we have something called the Shruti and the Smriti. In the Smriti literature, we have something called Dharma Sutras. Dharma Sutras, for example, Baudhayana's Dharma Sutra, Katyayana, and there is Vashishta, several other Dharma Sutras over there. And Dharma Sutras loosely give us an idea of what is the dharmic way of living life. What you can do, what you should not do. These are not like 10 commandments. These are not
These
set.
are not do's and don'ts.
These are prescriptions for life. Put it as prescriptions for life. And it is not as if you don't do that, then therefore you shall suffer and lie in hell forever. Nothing of that nature. It was, if you are a seeker, you want to know what is the right thing for you to do. Do you have some reference manual? And these best can be described as some kind of reference manual by thought leaders of each periods of time. In some period of time, Katyayana. In some period of time, Baudhayana, Apastamba. Different thinkers wrote Dharma Sutras based upon the society that was prevalent at that time. And there was a thinking also that Dharma Sutras are like what we have as like a constitution. They need to be changed with time. As time changes, you'll have to see the relevance of some of the earlier recommendations and try to change them. So Dharma Sutras also say that if there is any dispute in understanding a Dharma Sutra, you must appeal to a higher authority. And what is that higher authority? From Smriti literature, go to Shruti literature. You might go to finally Vedas. Vedas are the final authority. So there was an understanding that one could contest even some of these loosely called reference statements, how to live life, and try to get deeper understandings from earlier Smriti texts, Shruti texts, and try to make new sense out of these statements. So Dharma Sutras also talk about traditions. These traditions are called samskaras. So these samskaras we can think of as symbolic ceremonies and so on, which define the rich tapestry of what it means to be a Hindu. There are about 40 samskaras. Some people say only 16 of them are very important, but let us go with that 40. So among those 40 samskaras are various things like, let me give some groups. So there are samskara groups like prenatal samskaras. Before the child is born, there are some practices that you do. Childhood samskaras, educational samskaras, marriage samskaras, and funeral samskaras. In today's India, most often, many Hindus follow marriage samskaras and funeral samskaras. As part of marriage samskaras are things like practices like Mangal Sutra, the wearing of sindoor. All these are cultural practices that are there in samskaras. So when I choose to follow a samskara, I know that I'm connected in time and space to the things that my earliest ancestors did. So if somebody comes and says, I'm wearing a buttu or a vibhuti and this is what makes me a Hindu, one has got to understand there's a rich cultural, historical significance for these things. So it is very shallow for somebody to come and say that I don't want to wear this botu, don't want to wear this bindi, and these things what are Hindu, makes me Hindu. No, no, no. One has got to decode such statements at very, very deep levels.
So, what do you think of the statement that says, I'm a Hindu because I chant mantras, or going to a temple makes me a Hindu?
So very interesting, and that is something that many people would like to know, because we have lost so much of knowledge systems on Hinduism thanks to these deracinating forces that I talked about, the Eurocentric forces, missionary forces, today's Marxist forces, leftist socialist forces. All these people have deracinated us so much that most people don't know what exactly does it mean when I call myself a Hindu. Does my chanting of mantra make me Hindu? Does my going to a temple make me Hindu? Yes, 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 and yes. All of these and much, much more. Much, much more. We connect ourselves with our traditional practices at many, many levels. Whether it is at the level of sitting in my bedroom with a japamala and saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, that makes me a Hindu. If I go to a temple and I look at Saguna Brahman, I see Brahman with a form, and I bow to Lakshmi over there, I bow to Saraswati over there. That makes me a Hindu too. That makes
But
me a
does
Hindu.
the ritual itself make one a Hindu? The ritual of going to a temple or the ritual of chanting mantras without even knowing the significance of those activities and the meaning
Right.
of those mantras, does
Right.
that make one a Hindu?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So, how can we say this? So let's say it this way. Supposing I'm going to give an example as an analogy before I come to answer your question. So, supposing we go to it's a night sky, and I have a friend with me, and I say, "Hey, do you see that star up there?" And he says, "Which star? There are thousands and thousands of stars up there. Which star are you talking about?" Then I tell him, "Do you see those two tall buildings over there?" He says, "Yeah, I see those two buildings." And I say, "In that left building, do you see huge trees there?" He says, "Yes, I see that huge tree." And I say, "Do you see that tree has got three or four huge branches at the right side?" He says, "Yes, I see that." I say, "In the tallest branch, do you see there are two leaves that go like this?" He says, "Yes, I see those two leaves." Then I say, "In between those two leaves, do you see the star there?" He says, "Yes, I see the star. That is the star I was talking about." So tomorrow, that friend comes and says, "Which is that star that he talked about?" He says, "Yeah, I see the building, I see the tree, I see those branches, and I see those leaves. I see the star." So the second day, third day, he does the same thing. He uses these things and says, "Yes, I can see the star." The fifth or sixth day, he just comes out and says, "I see the star. I don't need this anymore. I see the star." So many of our practices that have evolved over time have all come with a central purpose of understanding Brahman. We approach Brahman in many ways. We approach Brahman, for example, in what the Bhagavad Gita says in Bhakti Yoga, in Jnana Yoga, in Karma Yoga. What do these things mean? Any of these things, for example, in Jnana Yoga, you might say, "I'm going to go on a path of deep meditation, follow the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, follow the Eightfold Path, and do this and meditate and go into dhyana and finally understand what Brahman is." Very, very difficult for people to do that in today's life. We are all people tied with jobs and families and things of this nature. And this is what Arjuna asks Bhagavan Krishna in the famous Bhagavad Gita. How do we do this? And Bhagavan Krishna says, there is another path too. You can follow the path of Karma Yoga, for example, where you're a householder, but whatever you do, you offer it to me alone. In other words, there's a permanent reality over there, and that permanent reality is Bhagavan. Everything else is change. That change is not permanent. And that is very apparent in our time lives too. If we take a look at a chemical reaction, we take two chemicals, pour them together, within seconds it changes color. So I don't have the time to look at every individual molecule, but I know that earlier it was that color, then in 1 second it changed color. So in the dynamics of that time frame, I can make out the color change. Then maybe you plant a seed, and that seed grows. Maybe in 1 week it sprouts, and then in another 1 week it becomes bigger. Then in another 1 month it starts bearing fruit. You're seeing the change from the time to the seed to bearing fruit. You're seeing the change. So what is that reality? Is the reality the seed? Is the reality the plant? Is the reality the tomato that it gives you? What exactly is the reality? our own time frames. We see that a child grows and then so on, and one fine day we die, and then we are burnt or buried or whatever. We go back to the matter that composed us. And again, every atom in our body is recycled, and we come back again in some other form. In the, at least the material form is recycled into another form. We see that. We see that in astrophysics, where if there is a supernova is a star that explodes because it has created heavier and heavier metals, from hydrogen to helium to oxygen to carbon, and finally it fuses. The fusion gives rise to iron. At that point, the star explodes. And when it explodes, it throws the material out into space. And if it is in a nebula is a collection of primordial gases like hydrogen, helium. These gases can compress again and form a new star. And from the new star, new solar systems come and new birth takes place. And inside the solar system, you can have planets forming. Inside the planets like Earth, we can have life forming. So we are all stardust in that sense. Every atom in our body is stardust. So we see change happening in various timelines, from the timeline of fraction of a second to timelines up to 10 to the power of 22 years, 24 years, which is a lifetime of Brahma, which is billions of years. So we see change happening all the way, whether you're studying astrophysics, whether you're studying biology, whether you're studying chemistry, whether you're just looking at your own life, at how life changes for you. One day you're happy as a baby, next you're sent off to school, then you're sent off from the comfort of your parents' home into a hostel where you go and study a professional job, get a job, and you're on your own. You see change happening in your life too. Change is happening everywhere. So Advaita experts through time try to understand this whole notion of change, whether it's Advaita, whether it was Gautama Buddha who tried to see what is the cause of sorrow. Every Indic thinker saw, is there a permanent reality? What is the meaning of change? Gautama Buddha only saw life as a series of changes. And he saw these changes happening. He thought there's no permanent reality. We cannot know permanent reality. Different Advaita thinkers try to understand through our sense objects. Can we try to understand that there's a permanent reality over there? Many people said eventually shut out everything, go into your mind and brain and try to meditate. And once you meditate, quieten the mind, you understand there is an Atman inside you. So this said, going back to your original question, that praying without understanding, saying a mantra without having any clue what it means, does that make me a Hindu? We are starting on a journey. Nothing is excluded here. You start your journey with the desire to say a mantra. You have no idea what the Sanskrit mantra meant. Maybe you are a Kannadiga, or maybe you're an Andhra person, or maybe you're a Tamil person. You don't know what the Sanskrit shloka means. Starting point. You say the sloka, then you try to understand the meaning behind it. Maybe you get the translation in a language that you appreciate, understanding there is much more to it. So one thing must lead to the other. Hinduism is a set of questions that you pose. You're a seeker. Because you're a seeker, a mantra that you did not understand, a ritual that you did not understand, and everything needs to be decoded. You need to ask the questions. You ask the questions to your parents. Maybe parents don't know because they're also a product of the same deracinating education system. Then you go and ask the pujari. Pujari, remember, is not an expert. He's just somebody who makes the rituals. Sometimes the pujari is well informed. He might tell you what it means. If that is also not good enough, you seek a guru. You seek a guru or a Swamiji and ask them the meaning of the rituals. Why are we doing these things? In today's world, you cannot find a Swamiji or a guru easily. Doesn't matter. Today, think of Google as your guru. There is so much, of course, Google is indiscriminate. You get junk as well as reality. But the point is, as a seeker, you try to see on Google, on YouTube, seek the videos of thought leaders, experts, try to understand. So if you are a seeker, genuinely trying to address the questions that are in your mind, that I don't know what this ritual means, I don't know what this mantra means, why am I going to the temple, why should I wear a vibhuti, why should I practice this particular festival, why should I do certain practices? If you don't understand that, make an effort to understand that. That is the way to do it, rather than conflating your ignorance as reality with arrogance, which is what we saw in the video. The person who is ignorant has conflated her ignorance as reality. That, man, what a superstitious practice this is. And then with arrogance, she throws out the wisdom of thousands of years that her own ancestors have evolved knowledge systems. and goes off to an entirely different system of thinking without even the slightest
Which is much more
question.
superstitious, actually, if you look at
I
it.
did not want to say that, but yes, yes. So without any questioning or the truth claims that comes with certain truth claims that the only way to XXX is through the same XXX in a different form, only way to the Father is through the Son. Things of this nature that if you do this, you will enjoy eternal heaven or eternal punishment in purgatory. Nobody questions these things. You blindly go to a different thing. So meaningless. I see this person as having been indoctrinated by these deracinating forces that I said, and blindly going in the programmed way. Her mind has been programmed deeply by early missionaries all the way to a Christian upbringing in missionary schools. Although she's a Brahmin, she was a Brahmin, and then blindly going the programmed path to where she has to go. And that's what has
Right,
happened
right,
over here. There's no
right.
questioning, there's no seeking, there's no understanding, nothing, zero, zero.